Welcome to the Hacking Your Life channel, where I share videos to help you reprogram yourself for an improved life. In this video, it's mostly about changing your perspective, and that is just getting to a higher plane. If you're on the street looking at a city, you can only see so far. If you get on a mountaintop and look down on the same city, you're going to see a lot farther. You're going to see more terrain. So in this video, I just want to give a chance to look at things from a higher perspective than just standing on the street. And as far as disease goes, when you're standing on a street looking at a city, you can only see so much. And today, basically, we've been given the germ theory. When you get a disease, when you feel those feelings of coughing and having to blow your nose all the time, or if you've got like a skin rash or pain, you often think about, what did you catch? Did you catch a disease? Did you catch germs or a virus? And then most people would go to the doctor to try to get some prescription to stop the fever or to stop the runny nose, to stop these symptoms. And there's actually just a lot more theories out there, basically, and I want to give this higher perspective. And obviously, YouTube and Facebook and various other social media sites are all proposing the idea that germ theory is the correct theory. If you speak out against germ theory and you're a doctor, then you'll probably have your license revoked. There is a very specific view of how things are. But not everybody believes these things. There are other theories out there. And so I just want to discuss the other theories, mostly the Germanic New Medicine theory. However, I do have this particular picture up here to begin with that's talking about the terrain theory. And so basically we've got on the left Louis Pasteur that says that the microbes are what causes the disease. The germs cause disease. There's a quote here. It says, "The microbe is nothing, the terrain is everything," which were the last words of Louis Pasteur, the father of the germ theory. So even he recanted of his germ theory idea based on that quote. And of course, with the germ theory, you're saying that germs are everywhere. You have to vaccinate the fish, take the fish away from those evil germs. And then there's the terrain theory. Antoine Béchamp, treat the patient, not the infection. And so this says that disease is caused from having a weakened immune system. And so basically, if somebody was of the terrain theory, they might want to stop eating meat and dairy and eat more fruits and vegetables and exercise, etc. Make sure that the body is in healthy working order in order to have a healthy immune system that easily detoxes from any of the germs or viruses that might come into their body in a future state. And so rather than vaccinate, they would take care of their body. Some people will do both. But if you're doing both, you still believe in the germ theory that there's these evil germs that your body is not going to be able to handle. And so you'll run to get, the virus vaccinations. So there's this post here, and I'll just read a little bit of it. It says here, "In other words, at one time, people believed in the superstition that disease is caused by demons or evil spirits, an imaginary cause. Today, germs have taken over the demon's role as an imaginary cause of disease." Here it says, "In the Great AIDS Hoax, page 51, T.C. Fry stated a virus is an evil spirit. In other words, a virus is an imaginary cause of disease like a demon or evil spirit." I've often said basically that there's this scientism is like the new religion. They say that there's evil microbes and viruses out there that are going to harm you, and you need to run to the scientists, that is the doctors, and get yourself vaccinated. And basically you want their protection against these things. So it's kind of like going to a priest to get your protection rather than actually believing that the body can take care of itself. So scientism has replaced, it's a religion. Some people have called it a cult because you can't question what the doctors say in this medical community. You can't question that, otherwise you'll get your license revoked, and then you might have fees, fines from the government, etc. So it's kind of like a cult in that sense that you can't question it. And there's a lot of people that question things, but they get taken off of YouTube or Facebook and whatnot. So that's that theory, which does seem to be cultish because they won't allow questioning, which is not scientific. That's why I say scientism, because science would actually question whether or not it's accurate. They would do another hypothesis and continue testing and then see if it is or if it isn't. There was another doctor, and I'll get into this. So Dr. Hamer, he originated this Germanic new medicine. And so he was a doctor. His son died. He was shot. And when this tragic event happened, he developed cancer. And so he wanted to look into this. He's a doctor, right? And so he's looking into it, and then he figures out that his cancer was caused by the shock of his son's death. And this is his opinion. Obviously, he actually got his medical license revoked in 1986, and it was confirmed in 2003. So the medical community, he's got allegations of malpractice, etc. They really don't like his theories. And so, again, this is to take you back from that street perspective of there only being the germ theory and understand that there is a higher perspective where there are multiple theories out there. And I'm just explaining the theories here. So his idea is basically every dis-ease happens from a shock. So the first rule or first law is basically there's a shock event, which he named after his son, and it's the DHS, the Dirk-Hammer syndrome. So first meaningful event that triggers this special program. That is, it triggers the healing. And so basically first there's a shock event, your emotions are going to be negative, and then your body is going to heal it as soon as possible. So as far as Abraham Hicks goes, every day you're going to get aligned with Source or God at some point on some subject. You're going to see things in a positive light. Perhaps you enjoy the sunlight and, it's a bright sunny day. Or you're walking along and you see a cute dog or something. Or you're watching a funny video. Something makes you laugh out of nowhere. All of a sudden you're in the present moment, back into alignment with God or Source on a particular thing in the present moment. And that happens throughout the day. It is about you as far as how often you are getting aligned with Source. Some people will spend a lot of the day, depressed or anxious or upset because of some event. So I'm not saying it's up to the person. It's up to the individual. It may be a lot, or it may be just a tiny bit that you're getting aligned with Source. But at some point, you will be moving up the vibrational scale on different topics as they happen throughout the day. So basically, first an event happens, you have a negative emotion. The negative emotion is the vibrational dissonance between you and God. So, or Source, however you see it. And so this God Source is out there feeling positive, well-being all the time, knows that everything's working out for you, has no fear, is total love, never hateful, never judgmental, never upset, never jealous, etc. Pure love, knows everything, that sort of thing. And so obviously, if you know everything, you wouldn't be afraid and you wouldn't be jealous, etc. So that pure Source is always out there. The well-being is always out there and flowing this love towards you. You can pinch yourself off. When you feel a negative emotion, it's your pinching off from that God Source. And it's you seeing something completely different. The negative emotion is that vibrational dissonance between the two vibrations that God's got going on and you've got going on. And so that dissonance, it feels bad. Just like if you hear dissonance in music, it doesn't sound right. It feels bad vibrationally. And that's where a negative emotion is coming from, because you're seeing something in a different way than God is. You're vibrating at a different wavelength than God is on that particular topic. So you've been given some shocking news. Perhaps you were fired, let's say, for this example, and you're feeling very fearful about the future. You don't know what's going to happen. So you're vibrating on fear. It's a very large difference between how God knows everything is working out for you, and perhaps you were fired and you're going to get a better job, better paying job in the future, and you needed to get out of the job that you're in order to do that. And so God sees things positively, joyfully, and you're seeing it as like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. I don't know what I'm going to do because I don't really trust that everything's working out for me. And so you're freaking out. And then that's your shock event. And then you're pinching yourself off from the well-being because you're not seeing things as God is seeing. You're kind of clenched off. And so the well-being is not being transmitted to you. You're not taking it in. I mean, it's always being transmitted to you. It's just sort of like you've got an umbrella up and you're blocking it. And so you're not letting it into the body. So you're not letting the well-being into the body that's being transmitted to you all the time. So you don't let the well-being in. The body starts to have this dis-ease. It starts to not have that feeling of ease anymore because of the shock event, because of these negative emotions that are happening, because of your perspective that something is wrong. And so the body goes into this state of dis-ease, and then at some point during the day, you laugh. Something happened. You forgot about what was going on and you laughed. And all of a sudden you're letting in this positive well-being because you're happy. You're seeing things as God does. You're enjoying the moment, a beautiful sunset or something, and you're just enjoying it, and you're aligned with God in that moment, and you're letting the well-being flow back into you. Your body starts to repair itself because you're letting the well-being in. And so the body starts to repair itself, and then all of a sudden you end up with a cough, or you start blowing your nose because the body is releasing what doesn't need to be there anymore. It's healing itself. And so these things that in the germ theory people would take as, oh no, I'm getting sick. In the Germanic New Method theory, it would be like, oh wow, I'm healing. So there's two different perspectives. And obviously God would be like, yes, you're healing, well-being is yours. So you'd be seeing things in the same perspective as God if you were saying, wow, I'm healing and everything's awesome. My body's taking care of it. You're seeing things in the perspective of God where you're not fearful. Whereas if you were seeing things from a fearful perspective, like, oh no, I'm getting sick, then you're pinching yourself off even more from the well-being. And so that's why you feel a negative feeling there. And so if you're pinching yourself off, you're thinking, oh no, I'm getting sick, then it's the fearful state, and you're going to keep disallowing the healing that could be coming into you. So that's from the law of attraction perspective. And it goes along with the Germanic New Method. As long as you continue to believe that things are going wrong for you, you're going to continue to have these things happen to you. In the Germanic New Method, they'd be called relapse tracks, or just tracks in general. The term track comes up as just subconscious reminders of the DHS, that trauma, that original shock, that reopen the original biological program, the disease again. And so tracks are just reminders. It's like it keeps coming back. So if you've got a fearful thing going on, and then you catch, in quotation marks, a disease, then you think, oh no, I'm getting sick. You keep reminding it. You keep bringing it back up again, this fearful state. And so it keeps happening. It keeps getting worse because you keep being fearful about it. If at some point, like, hey, colds don't last very long, I think I just have a cold, then it can get better. It's depending on if you're optimistic versus pessimistic. So if you're optimistic, you have a belief that it's going to pass quickly. At some point, you'll wake up and it's passing because you believe that it should. If you are in a fearful state about it and pessimistic, you start looking up symptoms. You might find a lot of symptoms online. You might start bringing it back up again, bringing it up again, bringing it up again. You keep pinching yourself off from the well-being that's there, and you can cause it to get into something worse because you're pinching yourself off from the well-being. And so It would be called a track here to keep the subconscious reminders. As far as Michael Singer goes, you might call it a samskara, something that keeps happening over and over again until you release the negative emotion that's been trapped inside of you. And so as far as the samskaras go, you want to deal with those negative emotions. You want to let yourself feel them. You don't want to push them away. A lot of the times negative feelings come and you push them away, you reject it, except what you resist persists. And if you keep rejecting your negative emotions, they're going to keep coming back up again. So it would be called a samskara or a track. It just keeps coming back up again. And so you want to get rid of those things. But that would be another video. So anyway, this is the Germanic New Method. Basically goes straight along with the law of attraction, that if a disease happens, you are the one who, quote unquote, created it because you didn't allow the well-being that was always there. So well-being's already flowing to you. A shock event, you get your negative emotion because you have a belief that it's wrong. So like I said with the being fired, because of your belief that if you're fired, this negative thing will happen, you won't have money, you don't know where it's coming from, you don't know when you're going to get a new job, you have worries, these things, those are beliefs about what is going to happen. If you got fired and you have a belief, everything's working out for me, and you get fired, you're like, wow, I must be getting a new, better job that's coming towards me. You have a completely different perspective. And so that's what cognitive behavioral therapy really helps with. Partly why I created this channel. So if you have a belief that everything's working out for you, you're not going to have that negative shock event as bad or at all to some news like getting fired. And so your body is going to react completely differently. And you want to be able to, when things happen, not have these negative emotions all the time, because these negative emotions are pinching off the well-being that's flowing to you. So, if you get fired and you're totally worried, pessimistic about what's going to happen, you're not seeing things as God is seeing them, God's source, however you see it. And that's what pinches you off. And then if you're focused on the pessimism, then you're completely pinched off for a while. You don't see evidence of your well-being anymore because you pinched yourself off of it, and then things keep showing up in your life because of your beliefs that just show that, oh no, things are getting worse and worse and worse, and you can tailspin down. Versus if you get fired, you have a different belief that everything's working out for you, and be optimistic. The well-being can continue to flow to you, and then you'll find out, oh, here's a way I can make money. Or somebody just comes in and says, hey, can you do this for me? I'll give you a little extra. And, things will just pop up because you're not pinching yourself off from the money that's flowing towards you. Same thing goes with sickness and health. There's well-being always flowing towards you, but based on your pessimism, it can get worse. It's all about beliefs. The placebo effect shows you this. If you believe that this placebo is going to help you feel better, it will. It's all in how much you believe in that pill. So that's how the Germanic New Method really aligns with the law of attraction perspective. If you have a negative emotion, your body is going to have this trauma event, the shock event, and it can cause this stuff to happen. And as far as the law of attraction and what's going on with disease, if you believe in the law of attraction, you know that you're not going to catch a disease from somebody else. So if somebody else has the flu virus, right? And then they come up and they kiss you on the mouth. If you believe in the law of attraction and you've had well-being flowing towards you and you're not fearful because you understand the law of attraction, then you're not going to, quote unquote, catch something from somebody else. Whereas if you don't believe in the law of attraction, if somebody comes up and you have a belief that it can be contagious, then it will be contagious. Because what you believe is what you keep seeing evidence of. And so there's huge belief in contagions in the world today. There's huge belief that even in the law of attraction community, I've seen people who are very much opposed to people not wearing masks. And it doesn't make sense from a law of attraction perspective that you would need to wear a mask, because you wouldn't believe that people can catch diseases unless that they were attracting them. And so if somebody has a feeling that they are totally well, then they're not going to attract sickness. If somebody has a feeling that they're fearful, let's say, of catching something, then they're going to attract it from wherever, and it's going to have nothing to do with you, because they're just fearful in general, and they'll keep attracting stuff that they're afraid of. So whether or not people catch things, quote unquote catch things, it has to do with them and their perspective and their beliefs. So it doesn't have anything to do with you. That's from the law of attraction perspective. I'm giving this large perspective of the different theories out there. And you can believe what you want to believe. We all know what the mainstream media and the medical community believes. They believe in the germ theory. They believe that you need to stay away from those evil germs and wear a mask, and that you're not supposed to not wear a mask when you go up to somebody because you might spread something to them. It is a fearful state of being, whereas the law of attraction is faith-based and out of love, and believes that there is a source that's in charge of everything and taking care of them. And some religions believe that too. They believe that there's a God taking care of them, and their body was created by God and it knows how to take care of itself, and there's no need for vaccines. And like Amish, where they don't take vaccines and they don't pasteurize their milk because they're not worried about catching something from their milk. And of course, there's laws in our country that say that you can't buy raw milk from the Amish. You have to have the pasteurized milk because our country is afraid of catching things. And that it's not a very good state to be in, to be afraid all the time. And it's nice to have different perspectives and faith. I hope that this video has given you a new perspective. As far as other theories out there, if you're into the law of attraction and you're into health, then you might want to look into the Germanic New Method, because they align very well with each other. I'll also share a video in the links below because it talks about contagions, and I think it goes along with the law of attraction also. So this is from the Germanic New Method, or New Medicine. The reason why people believe in contagions, there's a lot of different ideas about that, but one thing I wanted to mention, it's sort of in there, it's about a vibrational frequency thing. But basically, like frequencies attract each other. So birds of a feather flock together. And so if you've got a bunch of people that are fearful about getting a disease, then they will probably show up at the same time in the same location. And so let's say there's this grocery store, and there's people who are not afraid of getting diseases. They'll just go in and they'll be there at the same time. And they're not afraid of getting diseases, and so everybody just goes through, gets their stuff and leaves, and there's nothing to happen there. Whereas then the people that are afraid of diseases will all show up at the grocery store at the same time. They'll all be worried and suspicious of each other, and then they can go home and maybe they caught something, right? Quote unquote, caught something. Because of their fear, like they kept running into these people who were also afraid. And it's because like frequencies attract each other. They were the same frequency that was afraid of catching it, that's why they all got it. Because birds of a feather flock together, just frequencies, they come together. In the natural flow or Tao or Tao state, there's just a flow where frequencies will just go together if they are in harmony with each other. And so people who are afraid are in harmony with other people who are afraid. And people who are not afraid are in harmony with people who are not afraid. And nature will usually keep those frequencies together. Whereas we personally, on an individual level, we don't really align with God all the time. If just left into the flow state, you will be aligned with God on a particular issue. And it's actually unnatural for us to feel these negative emotions, that is, be pinched off from God or source. But that's where the cognitive dissonance comes in. The dissonance is just because we're not in harmony with God at that point when we're feeling those negative emotions. So I hope that this video has given you a higher perspective of the different beliefs and understandings of why people have a feeling of dis-ease in their body and why some people don't seem to catch diseases. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more of this sort of thing, and have an awesome day.